As inclusionary practices take root in schools across Washington state, communities are finding a need to come together to listen and learn from each other. So what is a community conversation, and how can they help strengthen inclusive practices in your school and community? Community conversations are designed to provide an intentional space for community members to come together, learn about an issue, and discuss ideas, strategies, concerns, and resources needed to address an adaptive challenge facing their community. Effectively supporting inclusion requires meaningful partnerships and collaboration between families, schools, and communities. Engaging families, educators, and community members in a community conversation will help identify people's aspirations for inclusive practices, people's concerns about inclusive practices, how people think and talk about inclusion in relation to the community, what changes are needed, what people believe can be done, and who they trust to take action. Inclusionary practices benefit every individual in every school. If we only think about inclusion as a special education initiative or project, we will miss the opportunity and promise of inclusion. The opportunity and promise of a school and community that values every student's success, presumes competence, and is truly a place of belonging. So what if your school is already implementing inclusive practices? Is it too late for a community conversation? It is never too late for a community conversation. Every community, whether they are just beginning their inclusive practices work or well on their way to implementing inclusive practices, every community should have a community conversation. Building a shared understanding, listening, and learning from each other will strengthen relationships and directly impact the success of inclusive practices work. The Inclusionary Practices Project Community Conversation Toolkit has been developed to help you plan and host your own community conversation. The toolkit will help you to plan the conversation, build a space of belonging, engage the community, develop a shared understanding of inclusive practices, harvest key ideas, community priorities and concerns, and identify actions to take. The toolkit includes a guidance document, 13 appendices, interactive tools, and resources. The guidance document includes background information, a community conversation planning guide, and facilitator guide. You can find the toolkit by going to fecinclusion.org. Click on the page link for the Community Conversation Toolkit. The toolkit is public domain, which means it is free to access and use. All the Community Conversation Toolkit components are available to download and print from the fecinclusion.org website. To learn more about the Community Conversation Toolkit and each of the components, you can watch the webinar, Introducing the Community Conversation Toolkit. You can find the webinar recording on fecinclusion.org.